Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we return to talking about Teen Vogue magazine, who once again has been trying to get woke this week, and they're doing so in some very cringy and awkward ways, to say the least. We of course have covered this company before, because over the last year or two, Teen Vogue has certainly pivoted to pushing liberal, progressive, social justice warrior politics hardcore, which is even more troubling considering their target demographic, young and impressionable teenagers. And the way Vogue is going about this is pretty annoying too. They're basically becoming BuzzFeed from 2016. If you don't remember, BuzzFeed used to be much more progressive and political just a few years back. They fortunately wisened up recently and realized how stupid they looked on this front, so BuzzFeed has since moved away from social issues mostly. But now we got Teen Vogue picking up their mantle with the same kinds of messages and the same styles of videos too, often shooting with teens and millennials in front of colored walls, in interview-like setups with pointed SJW messages too, of course. Last time it was Teen Vogue's gender misconceptions video, which we covered, and which we took much umbrage with. They of course were getting all woke there, talking about how gender is a social construct, and gender is fluid, and there are over 49 different variations of gender too. All kinds of nonsense like that came up. Next, a little further back, we covered Teen Vogue in another video where they were bashing people for so-called cultural appropriation, which really is just a way for racist progressives to attack white people, calling us racist for wearing things they claim to find offensive. And this was only the tip of the iceberg as far as Teen Vogue's SJW bullshit goes. So with that preface and this background out of the way, noting their known regressive history, well, I think we could see where this is going, and it's going nowhere good really fast. The newest bit of silliness coming from Teen Vogue started with a simple but pretty controversial tweet that's been going around quite a bit lately. It says, "Sex work is real work," and while they're not wrong there technically, but I can also see why many would find this offensive or at the least off-putting. Sure, sex work is real work, and I would never go so far as to shame people that have to make a living in this industry, but at the same time, it's not exactly something to be super proud of either. If your career involves giving men happy endings or doing perverse things on camera for others to get off to, well, no offense, but this isn't something to write home about, at least not in a positive, nostalgic kind of way. And to make matters worse here, as noted before, Teen Vogue is a company who is targeting young and impressionable, still developing teenagers, which for the record range from 13 to 19 years old. So yeah, telling that demographic that, hey, sex work is real work guys, nothing to be ashamed of here, well, this kind of sentiment being pushed to these kinds of people can be seen as Teen Vogue pushing degeneracy onto the youth at best. And at worst, it looks almost like Vogue is grooming children to bring them into these stripping, porn, and prostitution-like industries. Not too surprising coming from left-wingers though. We've all seen their degeneracy rise and rise in recent years, particularly when seeing their tendency to go after younger and younger children. It reminds me of all those kids we've seen online who are getting indoctrinated and turned into drag queens these days. Disgusting. And nothing is more perverse, left-wing, and current year than seeing little kids be made into drag queens who then twerk on stage for dollars at strip clubs. Absolutely insane, and not far off from what Teen Vogue has going on here today too. For more details on this sex work stance, let's read into the attached article here and see what Teen Vogue has to say about why sex work is real work. Sex work is legal in Amsterdam, but it isn't in many other places, though some people are working to make it so. In South Africa, where I am based, for instance, sex workers are calling for decriminalization and legal reform. They argue that sex work is work, as affirmed by the International Labor Organization, a specialized agency of the United Nations, a group which can never get anything done. This situation in Amsterdam and the continued criminalization of sex workers around the world is yet another example of how we disregard the needs and opinions of the people most impacted by policies. But even more so, it's another example of how we misunderstand what sex work actually is. I am a doctor, an expert in sexual health, but when you think about it, aren't I a sex worker? And in some ways, aren't we all? Well, no, we're not all sex workers, dude. What are you talking about? We all like sex, sure, and everyone wants to get laid, but that doesn't mean we need to legalize prostitution across the globe. And it certainly doesn't make us all sex workers. Really, basically, this is the writer's goal though. He wants to decriminalize sex work all over the planet. An interesting idea, surely, and something I might have been fully behind in my younger, more horny years, but at the same time, and in my opinion now, so-called sex work is already legal enough. There's still options to find strip clubs, escorts, and other happy ending massage places and shit like that already in America. So legalizing everything everywhere else just sounds like it's too much, and too much sex and crime and prostitution for me. So I'm not totally against it. I do realize places like Amsterdam that have sex work completely legal and regulated, well, they do have their shit figured out there, but I don't know if I really want this for all of the United States. And I certainly don't like this angle, and this idea being pushed onto young and impressionable teenagers, like the ones in Teen Vogue's audience. It's one thing to call for legalization here, but when it starts to look like you're trying to recruit your teen audience into becoming hookers, even pushing liberal propaganda to legitimize and church up the sex work industry, well, that's where I start to draw a line. Next, things got even weirder this week when Teen Vogue then decided to follow up their pro-sex work tweet with another, even more degenerate one. It says, and I'm not kidding, "We're here to lay it all out for you when it comes to anal sex." Wow. Just wow. We're talking about butt sex now? But I'm not here to clutch pearls or anything about this. And I recognize that anal sex is somewhat common and a legit form of intercourse. But this is weird and creepy, especially coming from Teen Vogue. And considering their pro-sex work tweet and other stuff they've talked about before. Talk about doubling down on degeneracy, huh? And doubling down on bringing up odd, awful topics for their 13 to 19-year-old audience. If I saw my hypothetical teenage kid reading crap like this, I would be pretty pissed myself. And I would cut them off from this Teen Vogue liberal propaganda immediately. Now, nothing wrong with anal sex again, but damn, the way they present it here is cringe as heck too. Let's read into some of this anal article though, to see how deep they get into it, pun intended. If you're not comfortable reading about anal sex, that's perfectly okay too. We have plenty of other articles around a variety of issues in wellness. Feel free to click out if you'd like, no pressure at all. Sure, except there's going to be pressure on your butthole if you try this. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff on the internet about anal. We don't suggest you Google it, but most of what you'll find is either porn or advice for experienced sexual persons looking to try something new. What about the teenagers? What about the LGBTQ young people who need to know about this for their sexual health? I have got you covered. Without all the run-of-the-mill hoopla, here is the lowdown on everything you need to know about butt stuff, no matter who you are, whom you're having sex with, or who you want to have sex with. This is Anal 101 for teens, beginners, and all inquisitive folk. Well, geez, slow down there. I don't know if I want young teens to learn about butt sex necessarily, and this guy seems a little too open about it, like he's excited to teach teenagers about anal. Sure, you have to have sex talks with your kids one day, and teens are certainly becoming old enough to have sex at some point, but there's a big difference between 13-year-olds and 19-year-olds. And also, keep in mind, many younger kids are possibly reading and watching this teen stuff too, like kids younger than 13, 10, 11, or 12. I don't know. It just seems weird and unnecessary to me, all of this. And certainly this is establishing a trend for Teen Vogue and their weird SJW influenced content, which doubles as liberal propaganda for young kids too. And then if you take just a casual glance at Teen Vogue's Twitter account some more, you'll also find all kinds of progressive posts in addition to this. They're one after the other there. Besides the ones we've already gone over today, there's also bullshit like this one about gender pronouns, a known favorite talking point for liberals on Twitter. But my policy recently has been, if the person has their gender pronoun in their Twitter profile, turn around and run away, guys. Mute, block, or ignore that person because they're about to start spouting SJW silliness. Next, they have a tweet about supposed colorism, also warning people not to use black women for performative wokeness, whatever that means. And colorism to me has always been just another funny way wannabe woke SJWs try and get victim points. They basically say lighter skinned black people get offended sometimes because darker skinned black people attack them or some bullshit. And this also reminds me of old BuzzFeed videos and also MTV News ones. Both of those liberal companies attempted to tackle this non-issue in the past about colorism, and they paid for this nonsense too by losing viewers and credibility, something which will certainly be happening to Teen Vogue pretty soon too. Finally, in case anyone was doubting how far Teen Vogue was willing to go with this in order to get woke and SJW, well, here's some clips from a video of theirs called The History of Yellowface. This should be good. And before we even start, it's worth noting that this video came out almost a month ago, and despite Teen Vogue's YouTube channel having 1.3 million subscribers, well, despite that, less than 7,000 people actually watched this video, and only like 300 of those even liked this. Pretty terrible performance, especially coming from such a large channel here, and I think we already know why. Yellowface claims are obviously bullshit, and people don't care to hear this nonsense anymore in current year. This is like some 2016 level bullshit. It's almost dated now. Regardless, let's take a quick peek behind this SJW curtain and see how crazy this shit goes.
Despite the many obvious benefits of broader representation, Hollywood has been pretty slow to reflect America's changing demographics. It has only been through intense public and box office pressure that is only now beginning to change. But what we have seen over the years is the practice of whitewashing. That's when white actors are cast in originally Asian roles. In the film Aloha, Emma Stone was picked to play a character who was supposed to be part Asian.
Oh my god, how dare they? Someone call the police. Bring out the pitchforks, people. Some small romantic comedy nobody remembers from 2015 cast Emma Stone as a part Asian woman. What a travesty. No, but really, this guy in the video needs to get a grip, dude. No one even remembers that Aloha movie. I saw the thing in theaters at the time and I barely remember it. Really, the only reason people even bring this movie up is because of this supposed casting controversy, which really just amounts to the film's production choosing an actor based on their skills and popularity over just their race. Funny how SJWs are now becoming the racist and the race obsessed and the ones driven by race in this country, isn't it? They openly call for the casting and discrimination of people based on race, like what this video says. And they're doing this unironically too. I hate to say it again and again, but this is another example of the liberals becoming the real racists. Because really, in reality, Hollywood is as equal opportunity as they come. They're all about making the money and they're not really racist about this stuff at all. That's why they cast actresses like Emma Stone and Scarlett Johansson. It's because they're more talented at acting and, most importantly, they're more bangable at the box office. Wait, I mean bankable. They're more bankable at the box office. But Teen Vogue wants certain races cast in certain roles anyway, despite their money-making abilities. Because reasons. Supposedly, Teen Vogue cares about more diversity in film, but really, I have a sneaking suspicion there are other factors at play here. Think about it. This only becomes an issue when whites are cast in things. So I don't think it's much of a stretch to say these claims about whitewashing and yellowface, they're not about protecting races like the Asians. Really, they're more about attacking races like white people. This is anti-white racism. And really, the SJWs just want to put less white people in prominent roles in movies because they hate us. And they want to do this despite white people being more popular and more in demand at the box office. Basically, it's not about money for the social justice warriors. It's about social control and pushing their liberal propaganda. And this is why their projects and everything they invade always fail. It's because it's not businesslike or profit-driven. No, in the end, I think we could clearly see that Teen Vogue has really been kicking its wokeness into overdrive lately. Not for better either, and certainly for worse, if you ask me. I think they will eventually lose this battle too, just like how BuzzFeed and MTV News failed miserably at the same kind of thing before them. Because much like their approach to filmmaking, Teen Vogue's approach to their magazine, website, and video making isn't money or profit-driven, and they're not trying to give the people what they want. Really, they care more about pushing progressive politics than making money. So, in the end, that's what's going to come to bite them in the ass in the long run. What do you guys think? Has Teen Vogue clearly gotten woke again? What concept here do you think is the worst in most SJW? Sex work is real work? Teaching kids anal sex? Or demanding less popular actors be cast in movies based on their race and ethnicity? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see y'all next time.